Guten Tag, everyone! Today, we embark on a captivating adventure through the heart of Europe to a land steeped in history, innovation, and vibrant traditions, the Germany. This lecture is your passport to exploring the tapestry woven by German culture, from its ancient roots to its contemporary pulse. But what exactly is German culture? It is a symphony of many voices, a kaleidoscope of influences that have shaped this nation for centuries. Get ready to be surprised, challenged, and ultimately charmed by the multifaceted tapestry that is German culture. This lecture is just the beginning of a deeper understanding and appreciation for this remarkable nation. Let us start with the history of Germany. In the 8th century, this century saw the kingdom of the Franks expanded from the territory of modern-day France. Charlemagne's subjugation of many Germanic tribes, especially the mighty Saxons in 768, was the high point. In 9th century, the ruler of the kingdom of the Franks was crowned emperor of the Romans by Pope Leo III in the year 800. Charlemagne, who died in Aachen in 814, was later named the father of Europe. That said, Europe is considerably larger than Charlemagne's realm. Looking back, he is considered more European than German or French. In 10th century, the coronation of Otto as emperor marked the start of the Holy Roman Empire, ruled by German emperors who followed the traditions of the ancient Roman Empire. Like that of the Carolingians, the Roman Empire had no capital, its rulers traveling constantly through the empire with their families and imperial household. They would normally reside in palaces built especially for this purpose, which served as the temporary seat of government. In 11th century, the dynasties of the Salians, who built Speyer Cathedral, and the Stoffers had considerable influence in the fortunes of Europe. One of the most important German emperors of the Middle Ages was Frederick II, who lived for most of the time in Sicily. Contemporaries named this cosmopolitan and highly educated emperor Stupor Mundi, the wonder of the world. In 12th century, an abbess and healer, not to mention one of the most important women of the German Middle Ages, Hildegard, died in Bingen am Rhein and at the age of 81. The monastery she founded was destroyed in the 30 Years' War and was later rebuilt. In 13th century, this century was characterized by the fall of the Stoffers and the loss of power of the emperors. Secular and ecclesiastical princes became increasingly powerful. In 1248, the foundation stone for one of Germany's most famous buildings was laid, the Cologne Cathedral. In In 14th century, the Hanse, a league of up to 72 free towns with a further 130 allied towns, was to all intents and purposes a major power in the Baltic and North Sea regions for 100 years. It was based on trade, which led to many towns, including Lübeck, its main center, but also Hamburg, Bremen, and Cologne, becoming rich. In 15th century, Johannes Gutenberg, the inventor of letterpress printing with movable type, was the first to print the Bible in Mainz in a print run of roughly 180 copies. Previously, all manuscripts had to be written by hand, which meant that they were very expensive and accessible to only few people. In 16th century, the era of the Reformation began when Martin Luther published his 95 Theses in Wittenberg, opposing the Catholic Church's system of indulgences. His first translation of the Bible into German made the text accessible to those who did not speak Latin. 17th century, both a war of religion and a conflict between states, the 30 Years' War ended with the Peace of Westphalia, which recognized the Catholic, Lutheran, and Reformist faiths as being equal. The war, which saw alternating alliances between the Emperor and the Catholic League, with the Protestant Union on the other side, destroyed large parts of Central Europe, and especially the Holy Roman Empire. In some parts of the southern Germany, up to two-thirds of the population lost their lives. In 18th century, during the reign of Frederick II of Prussia, an aesthete and a military commander, Prussia rose to become a major European power. His rule is considered exemplary of the age of enlightened absolutism. At the same time, however, many people left their homeland. Encouraged by the rulers there, many Germans immigrated to the east in the second half of the 18th century, to Hungary, Romania, and Russia. In the 19th century, the secularization of ecclesiastical states and its dissolution of free imperial cities by the imperial resses heralded the end of the Holy Roman Empire of the German nation. The French Revolution brought many new ideas also to Germany, such as the republican values and also the idea of national resistance to the French occupation. Century, the German Revolution began in the Grand Duchy of Baden. It quickly spilled over to the remaining states of the German Confederation and led to the first German National Assembly, which met at St. Paul's Church in Frankfurt. The crushing of the revolution, coupled with poverty and the lack of prospects, resulted in around 1 million Germans immigrating between 1850 and 1855, by far the majority to the USA. In 19th century, on January 18, while the Franco-Prussian War was still ongoing, William I was proclaimed German Emperor in Versailles. The Second German Empire was a constitutional monarchy. Shortly after the empire was established, an economic upswing ensued, known as the Founders' Years. As a result, immigration also declined sharply. In the 19th century, Emperor William II isolated Germany in foreign policy terms and led it to the catastrophe of the First World War, which cost nearly 15 million lives. The Treaty of Versailles was signed in June 1919. On November 9, the Social Democrat Philipp Scheidemann declared the Republic and Emperor William II abdicated. Elections to the National Assembly were held on January 19, 1919. There was considerable opposition to the new republic from the start, both from the right and from the left. Adolf Hitler's NSDAP became the strongest party in the Reichstag elections on November 6, 1932, winning 33.1% of the vote. And on January 13, 1933, Adolf Hitler became Reichschancellor. The Enabling Act marked the start of the Nazi dictatorship. Hitler unleashed the Second World War when he invaded Poland on September 1, 1939. 6 million Jews became the victims of the Nazi extermination policy. In 1945, it marks the end of the Second World War. The Allies divided Germany into 4 occupation zones and Berlin into 4 sectors. In 1948, the introduction of the Dutch mark in the Western occupation zones prompted the Soviet Union to block the access routes into West Berlin on June 24, 1948. The Allies responded by setting up an airlift to supply the population in West Berlin until September 1949. On May 23, 1949, the Basic Law of the Federal Republic of Germany was introduced. The first elections to the Bundestag, the country's parliament, were held on August 14. Konrad Adenauer became chancellor. On October 7, 1949, the legal separation of East and West was completed when the constitution of the GDR entered into force. Germany's separation only ended when the Berlin Wall fell in 1989 and Germany was reunified in 1990. After 1945, only one part of Germany had a chance to give democracy a second go, namely West Germany. In 1948 to 1949, representatives of the freely elected parliaments of the federal states in the American, British, and French zones of occupation met in the Parliamentary Council in Bonn and devised a constitution that drew logical conclusions from the mistakes made in preparing the Reich Constitution of 1919 and the failure of the Weimar Republic, the Basic Law of the Federal Republic of Germany. The people of Germany. As of 2022, Germany has a population of over 84 million people, a record high. Conversely, Germany is also experiencing a birth deficit, meaning more people die than are born in a year. So why does it have a record high population? While births remain low, Germany has a progressive and welcoming immigration policy. Immigration is the only reason Germany's population continues to grow, and roughly a quarter of the population is made up of immigrants. Through the ages, Germany was historically known as Das Land der Dichter and Denker, or the land of poets and thinkers. It is the home to famous thinkers and artists. From famous musicians and poets to kings and queens, Germany was the home to so many inspirational and entertaining folk. Let's learn about the famous Germans in history. Kings have been around for thousands of years, and in Germany, they went down in the rich history as some of the Europe's most eccentric, brave, and bold kings. First in the list is King Ludwig II of Bavaria, the most well-known and notorious of kings. He is known for his eccentric taste and over-the-top spending habits. While good to his servants, he denied his royal duties to spend and spend and spend. Frederick the Great. Frederick had a troubled past, but that was no match for his determination. He rose to the occasion and gained expansion of Prussia. He became a force to reckon with and served the German people with the utmost kindness and willingness to protect them. Louis IV, a tenacious and for the people ruler, one of the first of German emperors. He upheld the title with gratitude and fought well with his strong army by his side. Louis was the true definition of a king. Musicians. These people changed the name of the game of music forever. Famous not only for their humble homes in the German states, but becoming known worldwide for their works. Some of the most famous Germans in history are on the list. Ludwig van Beethoven. He was and went down with a legacy of being the most impressive classical German composer. Beethoven's Piano Sonata Number 29 is labeled as one of the most difficult songs ever to play on the piano. Johann Sebastian Bach. He was known more commonly as Bach, another phase of classical music. He's actually the most famous composer of the 1600s. Poets and novelists. Many big names in German literature changed the world of poetry, children's books, and novels. Johann Wolfgang Goethe. Johann was a famous poet and novelist in the late 700s. The Sorrows of Young Werther was his most known novel. Brothers Grimm. Imagination got these brothers a long way from their poverty-filled childhoods to filling other people's childhoods with joy, writing famous novels and folklore tales like Rapunzel, Hansel and Gretel, The Creepy Pied Piper, and many more. Annette von Droste-Hülshoff, another poet and novelist that went down in history as the best female poet in Germany. Das Geschlecht Jar and Letzigaben were just a few of her famous works. Anne Frank. Everyone has heard of the brave and courageous story of Anne Frank. Little did she know that her diary of tragedy would become an inspiration novel known all across the globe. Philosophers. The journey of philosophy was everywhere in Germany in the late 18th century. But what started all of this? Well, a lot of it came from the man up there and several others who fed off each other's theories. And the first one is Immanuel Kant, a German philosopher that brought Enlightenment thinking to the people. He was the biggest and the most impactful influence in philosophy, metaphysics, ethics, and more. He released very intriguing writing about the great earthquake that hit Lisbon in 1775 and was able to calculate exactly what caused it. He was praised for his geniuses, so much so that he was featured on German postal stamps like the one shown. Friedrich Nietzsche, another man of excellence that helped pave the way for future philosophers. He dabbled in many types of philosophy and was the youngest ever to hold the title of classical philology at Basel University. He was only 24 when his genius started to be recognized around Europe. He was loved but also hated, as it was speculated that he might have been involved in the Nazi Party. Karl Marx. He was a German-born philosopher, economist, political theorist, historian, sociologist, journalist, and revolutionary socialist. His best-known works are the 1848 pamphlet, The Communist Manifesto, and the three-volume Das Kapital. The latter employs his critical approach of historical materialism in an analysis of capitalism and represents his greatest intellectual achievement. Inventors. The fantastic world of imagination can and has led to people finding groundbreaking discoveries. These inventors took on the most complex mechanics, designs, and thoughts to create some of the world's most convenient, handy-dandy, and speedy tools. Johannes Gutenberg, a 14th century inventor and artistic craftsman who invented a huge piece of history, the printing press. He worked tirelessly for years trying different metals and oil blends to get the perfect movable press, and that he did, a successful man of brilliance. Carl Benz, the man, the legend, Mr. Benz, the designer, the automotive engineer, and the maker of this snazzy Benz car. It all started with a three-wheeled Benz patent motor wagon that he invented and only went up from there. Yes, the number of wheels went up too. From here, he invented the Benz Victoria. Now that's riding in style. His models and success skyrocketed and his name is known worldwide. And last but not the least, Albert Einstein. The physicist Albert Einstein is perhaps the most famous German scientist and is often named as one of the greatest physicists in history. He is widely known for developing the theory of relativity and for coming up with the world's best-known equation E is equal to mc squared. For many people, the word Einstein is synonymous with genius. He was born in Ulm in 1879, spent some time in Switzerland as a young man, and was living in Berlin when he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921. Einstein, who was of Jewish origin, immigrated to the United States when the Nazis came to power in Germany, and he continued his work there. The Germans' values and beliefs. Let's start with religion. Germany was historically Catholic nation, but in 1500s, German-born Martin Luther intensified the Protestant Reformation in Germany. As East Germany came under communist rule in the 1940s, religion was viewed as direct opposition to communism. As such, religion was widely suppressed. Eastern Germany still has the largest population of non-religious Germans. The main religion in Germany is Christianity, with around two-thirds of the population identifying as Christian. The number that actively practices Christianity in the form of church attendance, however, is significantly lower. Unlike most European countries, which tend to be either largely Catholic or largely Protestant, German Christians are split almost evenly. Around half of Germany's Christians are from the Evangelical Church of Germany, a combination of Protestant religions including Lutheranism and Protestant Calvinism, and half are Roman Catholic. Around 2% of the country practice other Christian religions, mainly Orthodoxy, including both Eastern and Oriental Orthodoxy. Islam is the biggest non-Christian religion practiced in Germany, with followers accounting for about 5% of the population. Most Muslims in Germany are Turkish or of Turkish descent and follow the Sunni tradition. The politics in Germany. The Federal Republic of Germany is structured as a federal state and parliamentary democracy. The basic law sets down that all state authority derives from the people. The people confer this power to the federal and state parliaments for one legislative period. State authority is divided between the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch, which is responsible for the administration of justice. The separation of powers is a core component of all democracies and is enshrined in Germany's constitution, the Basic Law. Parliaments belong to the legislative branch, while governments belong to the executive branch. The judicial branch holds a key role as judges in courts at both state and federal levels are independent and make decisions solely based on law. The highest court in Germany is the Federal Constitutional Court, which supervises compliance with the Basic Law. All other state authorities are bound by the decisions of the 16 constitutional judges. The German values. 75% of Germany's population are urban dwellers, and it is in these urban areas where you will find the most liberal attitudes towards homosexuality, gender equality, and refugees. German people traditionally have strong family values, and even today it is not uncommon to find several generations of a family all living in or around the same town or city, even in the larger or more transient cities like Berlin, who meet up often and celebrate or go on vacation together. For decades, Germany has shown its commitment to renewable energy and protecting the environment. It has long been the forefront of pioneering new technology to help in the war against fossil fuels, carbon dioxide emissions, and pollution, and its dedicated garbage recycling system is one of the most thorough in the world. Comes to school and work, it seems to be ingrained in most German people that they should be hardworking, which is probably why the country can boast impressive economic development and one of the best education systems in the world. The average working week in Germany is around 35 to 40 hours, one of the lowest in Europe. Productivity, however, is high, and whilst at work, most Germans take pride in doing a good job. And when not at work, they partake in a range of leisure activities and pastimes. Many Germans also tend to place punctuality as high priority. Hence the global observation that German trains often run perfectly on time. Germany is one of the world's biggest producers of board games and has been responsible for the invention of many of the biggest names in the realm of so-called Eurogames. German invented board games also include Carcassonne, the Settlers of Catan, and Ticket to Ride, although you will also find German versions of most top games in local game shops such as Trivial Pursuit, Monopoly, and Cluedo. Many Germans are passionate about international travel, and taking foreign holidays is an important part of the lifestyle. In fact, Germany spends more per capita on international travel than any other country in Europe. also is an integral element of German society, both in terms of participation and spectating. A third of all German residents belong to a sports club or organization, and hundreds of thousands watch football, ice hockey, and handball games every week. With three-quarters of all Germans living in cities, urban gardening has become very popular, and even those who live in high-rise apartments will find a way to add greenery to their apartment. As the country that invented the modern motor car and the birthplace of all Audi, Volkswagen, Porsche, Mercedes-Benz, and BMW, it is little wonder that Germans take great pride in their motor vehicles. German traditions and customs. The Germans' folklore. German folklore is similar to the folklore of Scandinavian and English cultures because all three have origins in Germanic mythology. The country's folklore tradition is characterized with peasants who become heroes, woodcutters who have children, and royalty that has fallen under an enchantment. Many German fairy tales or folk tales feature a female protagonist, and often the character ends up marrying royalty, thereby elevating their social stature as a reward for being good. Most German folklore stories feature a romanticism of natural spaces, in particular forests, and in nearly every story the villain gets his or her retribution, thereby teaching a moral tale with values important to the culture. The message is clear: goodness and kindness are rewarded, while cruelty and selfishness are punished in German folklore. A wandering hero is often present in German folklore, as the protagonist either leaves home to seek their fortune or is cast out by family or other forces. The hero's journey often involves a helper, such as a Cinderella's fairy tale godmother, and sometimes the character's morality is tested in German fairy tales. To get their happy ending or wish, the hero often has to overcome a difficulty. Objects often have magical properties that can aid the hero in their quest, and the hero is very clever in German fairy tales and folklore. Clothing. The Germans' clothing includes dirndl. The dirndl was initially created as a hardy outfit for servants and peasant women, and was made of soft, breathable, and easily washable material. Lederhosen. Lederhosen, literally translating to leather trousers, refers to trousers that were traditionally made out of tanned deer leather, originally worn by hunters, riders, and others involved in outdoor activities. This kind of leather met the requirements of hard physical labor by being more durable than regular fabric. Trash. In the past, trash was typically accessorized with a fancy hat, which had the twin advantage of protecting one's face from the sun while parading one's fashion sense. For men in southern Germany especially, this was usually a traditional alpine hat made of felt or wool, with a brim that encircled the head. Woolen hat. A particularly interesting and vivid hat was, and still sometimes is, worn by Protestant women in the Black Forest villages of Kernbach, Wutach, and Hornbach, Reichenbach, known as the Bullen hat. It is a formal, wide-brimmed straw hat topped with 14 woolen pom-poms weighing up to a total of 2 kilograms. Women who are married wear black pom-poms, while those who are unmarried wear brightened. We have also their celebrations. The first one is the Oktoberfest in Munich. Germany's most iconic Oktoberfest attracts millions of people to the city to enjoy Bavarian beer and food, live bands, and parades. Next one is the Reeperbahn Festival in Hamburg. Hamburg's Reeperbahn Festival gives music fans a chance to enjoy a variety of genres and up-and-coming artists from across the world. Over the course of 4 days in September, there are over 350 music concerts, art exhibitions, conference, and film screenings held in and around St. Pauli district. Carnival in Cologne. We have also the Cannstatter Volksfest in Stuttgart. Also, the Worst Mark in Bad Dochem. Berlinale Film Festival in Berlin. Berlinale showcases over 400 films of various genres and lengths, one of the largest international film festivals in the world. It has been held in Berlin since 1978. Mark in Berlin. If you're in Berlin during wintertime, you can find not one, but more than 20 Weihnachtsmarkts or Christmas markets set up in historical buildings and city squares. Rain in Flammen in Koblenz. Rain in Flammen, or Rhine in Flames, is a series of spectacular firework displays and ship parades on the banks of Rhine. The festival takes place from May to September every year with about 75 illuminated ships sailing down the Rhine. Beethoven Fest in Bonn. Beethoven Fest attracts fans of classical music to the town of Bonn with talented orchestras, classical dances, workshops, and food fairs. This event dates back to 1845 to celebrate the music of renowned composer Ludwig van Beethoven. Festival Medieval in Selb. It features folk music, fire shows, and theaters dedicated to medieval times in Germany. The 4-day event takes place at Goldberg State Park in September, drawing crowds dressed up in the traditional costumes. Customs in Germany. In cultures around the world, wedding ceremonies go hand in hand with special traditions and superstitions. Germany is no different. You'll find regional peculiarities as well as influences from abroad. The first one is personal invitation. When a future married couple visits in person to surprisingly announce their wedding, it is a tradition to serve them scrambled eggs as a snack, since the suddenly invited wedding guests can't prepare for a spontaneous meal. It became a tradition to prepare something quick and simple everyone usually has in the kitchen. Bachelor and bachelorette party. Germany adopted the tradition from the US and it is similar. Bar hopping or clubs are very popular. Some bachelors are equipped with Bollerwagen, a simple wagon usually weighed down by adult beverages. Bachelorettes sell shots for some euros, followed by a kiss for the future bride. Polterabend. In Germany, rehearsal or groom's dinners are not celebrated. The Polterabend is the equivalent, which is usually celebrated 1 to 3 weeks prior to the wedding. Every guest brings old porcelain to break at the party. The breaking is supposed to banish evil spirits. The future bridal pair has to clean it up together. Sawing wood. Right after the wedding ceremony, it is an old custom to let the newly married couple saw a log placed on a sawbuck using a jigsaw. It is important to push and pull equally and well paced. It reflects how well the couple can work equally together to be successful. Spitchwicken. Spitchwicken is a 10-foot long cake which is ritualistically brought into the festivity room. The long cake on a wooden plate is carried by a group of about 10 male, or nowadays sometimes female, wedding guests. The arts and literature of Germany. Germany's most significant proponent of Renaissance era, Dürer, is sometimes referred to as the Leonardo of the North. He is famous for Gothic and religious woodcuts, which he produced early in his career before moving on to engravings such as Saint Jerome in his study, Night, Death, and the Devil, and Melancholia the First. Gerhard Richter. He is one of the most famous German artists alive today, a leading proponent of both abstract and photorealistic art. Many of his works have set record auction prices. Many of his works have record auction prices, including Abstraktes Bild, that sold in 2015 for $44.5 million. The work is one of the most popular German paintings thanks to its vivid colors and open interpretation. The next one is Paul Klee. Arguably the most famous 20th century Germanic artist, Paul Klee was born in Switzerland to a German father. He undertook his fine arts degree in Munich, one of the most influential artists in the Surrealist, Expressionist, Pointillist, Abstract, and Cubist movements. Klee was an artist who didn't stick to one genre but moved among these modern art movements. Military service in the First World War didn't affect his ability to create paintings, which he created throughout war. His experiences affected the work that he later produced. His most famous works of art include Senecio in 1922, Ad Parnassum in 1932, and Fish Magic in 1922. Here are the art museums in Germany. Some of this will be presented here. The first one is Altes Museum in Berlin. It is a work of art itself. This huge new classical building is situated on Berlin's famous museum island. The gallery displays some of the biggest collections of classic art in the world. while on Museum Island, visitors can incorporate a visit to the Bode Museum, which showcases Byzantine, Islamic, and Middle Eastern art, and the Altay National Gallery, which features Western art from the 19th to 20th centuries, including some of the best examples of German Expressionist arts. The next one is the Alte Pinakothek in Munich. For lovers of fine art, and in particular the old masters, this is the place to dedicate a day or even two. Major names from European art from the 14th to 19th centuries are featured here, such as Rembrandt, Botticelli, and Da Vinci, as well as Albrecht Dürer. Woolraf Richards Museum in Cologne. Smaller and easier to navigate than some of the larger galleries found in Berlin, Hamburg, and Munich. This historic gallery is home to Germany's grandest art collections of the 14th to 19th centuries. Gothic, Renaissance, Baroque, and Impressionist works are all displayed. The German literature. One of the earliest texts written in Old German or Old Saxon is the epic poem Heliand. Throughout medieval Germany, poetry, and later, folk stories dominated literary landscape. The great age of German literature really began in the late 18th century with the advent of the Sturm and Drang, or storm and stress genre, a proto-romantic emotional genre which emerged as a response to the more clinical expectations of the Enlightenment. This was followed by Weimar Classicism and later German Romanticism into the early 19th century, which with writers such as Goethe. By the late 19th century, classic German literature was characterized by realism, books that featured important social commentary. In the 20th century, realism and naturalism gave way to the social commentary of Weimar literature. In the modern post-war period, the characteristics of German literature were dominated by both subjective and political explorations of Nazism, the Holocaust, war, and political division. These themes were written about in an attempt to help heal the wounds of the 21st century. So as seen in the screen, it is the work of John Hartmann, The Death March. And here are the famous German books. The first one is the Die Blechtsturm, or the Teen Dram by Günter Grass. It is the first in the novelist Danziger trilogy. Magical realism meets political and religious commentary in this 1959 classic. It's narrated by the main character Oskar Matzerath, a Pole living in a mental hospital in the 1950s. In 1979, it was made into an award-winning film. The next one is Der Tod in Venedig, or Death in Venice, by Thomas Mann. Death in Venice is a 1912 novella in which philosophy, erotic obsession, and a midlife crisis play out during a famous writer's sojourn to Venice. Part tragedy, part liberation tale, this book is one of the writer's earlier works. Mann is also famous for writing the 1947 book Dr. Faustus. we have the Dernborlise, or The Reader, by Bernhard Schlink. The Reader by Bernhard Schlink was written in 1995 and quickly became a modern classic. It gained even more notoriety when it was made into a movie in 2008 starring Kate Winslet. In the book, an illiterate SS guard has an affair with a teenage boy. The famous Grimm's fairy tales by Grimm's brothers. The Grimm brothers and their collection of 19th century fairy tales also have global significance. This book contains 209 tales. Grimm's fairy tales, originally known as the Children's and Household Tales, is a German collection of fairy tales by the Grimm brothers or Brothers Grimm, namely Jacob and Wilhelm, in which the book first published on December 20, 1812. The German cuisine. The German cuisine or foods include Brot and Brotchen, or bread, in the form of a loaf or brot, or a small, usually crusty roll. Brotchen is an important part of the cuisine, which is eaten all over the country and served with most German dishes. Bread is enjoyed with most meals, especially breakfast and dinner, but also at lunch, usually considered the main meal of the day, which will often be served with rolls on the side. Spätzle, a dish from the southwestern regions of Germany. Käsespätzle is made from layering small spätzle pasta with grated cheese and topping with a fried onion. It is usually served with a salad and sometimes with applesauce. Currywurst. Currywurst is sold from stalls and fast food eateries in many towns and cities. And if you want to know what food the capital city Berlin is famous for, you will quickly discover that it is Currywurst. It is not a dish that Germans eat at home, but instead it's something that is eaten on the go. Next one is the Kartoffelpuffer and Bratkartoffeln. A Kartoffelpuffer is similar to a Swiss rosti, a shallow fried pancake made from grated potatoes, egg, and flour. Bratkartoffeln, on the other hand, are more like sauté or hashed potatoes, where small chunks or chips of potatoes are parboiled and then fried with onion and sometimes bacon. Next one is roulade. Roulade is a German main dish that typically consists of pickles and bacon wrapped in thin slices of beef or veal. It is usually served with gravy, dumplings, and mashed potatoes and cabbage. Roulade is often enjoyed when families come together to share a meal during a holiday or celebration and does not hail from one specific region. In fact, it is said to have French origins, hence the name. Schnitzel. A schnitzel is made by tenderizing a piece of meat and then covering it in egg, flour, and breadcrumbs before frying it in oil. Very similar to a French escalope, the schnitzel actually originated in Austria. Eintopf. An eintopf is a one pot stew that may include a wide variety of ingredients. It is a meal in one that will typically contain broth, vegetables, potatoes, and meat. Braten is a German pot roast. It literally translates as sour roast. The sour part refers to the pickling of the meat in a sweet and sour gravy-like sauce, which is then slowly roasted in a dish. Britzel. Britzel is the German term for pretzel. Although you may see them sold under either name, available at bakeries and on street stalls, a britzel is made with a long strip of dough which is folded into a knot and then boiled before being baked. This results in a chewy brown crust and a soft, fluffy interior. The origin of britzel is fiercely contested, but they have long been associated with Christian celebrations, with many viewing the knot shape as a symbol of the Holy Trinity. Walder Käsetorte, a delicious cake that you may well know as Black Forest Gâteau. This layered chocolate sponge includes cherries, jam filling, and cream. As the name suggests, it originates from southwest Germany where the Black Forest is situated. Eating cake in the afternoon with coffee, an activity known as Kaffee on the Kochen, is a major tradition in Germany, especially at the weekends with family. Schwarzwälder Käsetorte is often enjoyed at this time. German beer and the Purity Law. In 1516, a law known as the Purity Law, or Reinheitsgebot, was established. This dictated that only three ingredients may go into beer: water, hops, and barley. When yeast was discovered, this was added as a fourth sanctioned ingredient. Pale lager is the most common beer in Germany and includes varieties such as Export, Helles, Helle, and of course Pilsner beers. The German language. The official language of Germany is German, with over 95% of the population speaking German as their first language. The minority languages include Swabian in the east of Germany, North and West Frisian, spoken around the Rhine estuary by around 10,000 people, or 0.01% who also speak German. Danish is spoken by 0.06%, mainly in the area along the Danish border. Romani, an indigenous language, is spoken by around 0.08%. Immigrant languages include Turkish, which is spoken by around 1.8%, and Kurdish by 0.3%. So here are the common phrases for conversations that we can use. Okay, so hello or good day in German, it is the Guten Tag. Okay, again, Guten Tag. Then we have good morning, which is Guten Morgen. And then we have the good evening, Guten Abend. And then when you say my name is, that's mein Name ist. And then what's your name? That is wie heißen Sie? Nice to meet you. Es freut mich. How are you? Wie geht es Ihnen? How are you? That's we got us. We gates. Another one is I'm doing well. That's mir geht's gut. The next one is I don't understand. That's ich verstehe nicht. And then I can't speak German. That's ich kann kein Deutsch. Ich kann kein Deutsch. Then how much does that cost? That's wie viel kostet das? Then cheers, that's Prost. And then we have a good trip. That's gutaris, gutaraisa, gutaraisa. Okay. The next one is the idiom. Okay. This idiom literally means everything has an end, only the sausage has two. So in English translation, it means everything comes to an end. So the reference to a sausage may not make logical sense, but it is used to emphasize the first part of the idiom, that all things must come to an end. Another idiom is this phrase, which has the literal translation to stand on the line. So it means to not follow or understand. So in the early days of phones, if somebody would stand on the telephone wire, it would mean that you couldn't communicate with the other person because nothing you say would get through to them. So this is what this idiom means. If you try to explain something to someone, but they can't follow, they're standing on the line. Next is missed or missed in literal translation, but in English translation it is darn. So this famous German idiom is one of the most useful phrases you learn if you need to express frustration. Another idiom is this, which has the literal translation to be turtle doves, or in English translation, this is to be lovebirds. This idiom is used to describe two people who are deeply in love. They are devoted to each other and demonstrate it through their affectionate action. We have also unique vocabulary from German language. The first one is Ohrwurm or earworm. So have you ever listened to a song on the radio while driving to work only to find yourself still humming the same tune by lunchtime? So the beautiful German word Ohrwurm describes having a song stuck in your head as if it wrinkled itself into your brain through your ear. So um, um, in Filipino, it is considered as, or it has a counterpart as the LSS or last song syndrome. That's uwabong. Again, uwabong. Okay, the next one is the Fremdschämen or external shame. Fremdschämen describes the feeling of shame when seeing someone else in an uncomfortable or embarrassing situation. So in English, we'd call this secondhand or vicarious embarrassment. Another one is the Kaffeeklatsch or coffee gossip. This cute little word is what you'd use to say you're meeting someone for coffee and conversation. The nonverbal communication in Germany. Germans usually keep about an arm's length distance between one another when talking, and sometimes a little extra between men and women, depending on how well they know each other. Standing too close to someone can be seen as an invasion of their privacy. In terms of physical contact, German people tend not to touch one another very much during communication unless they are close friends. Touching someone on the shoulder or arm to emphasize a point is generally acceptable, but can otherwise be seen as a sexual advance. Women tend to be more physically affectionate with each other than men. And it is also polite to apologize if you accidentally bump into someone or make unwanted physical contact by saying Entschuldigung or excuse me in Germany. Also, in terms of eye contact, direct eye contact is expected, especially when speaking about a serious matter. It conveys sincerity and approachability. Avoiding eye contact may be seen as an indication of dishonesty or a lack of confidence. It is also appropriate to break eye contact now and again, as holding it for prolonged periods can make people uncomfortable. So when talking to a group, be sure to make equal eye contact with all people present. In terms of gestures, Touching your index finger to your thumb in a circle to demonstrate okay or good can be misunderstood. Instead of crossing the index finger and middle finger to indicate hoping for something or good luck, Germans squeeze the tip of their thumb between those two fingers, or Daumendrachen, letting one's thumb protrude too far from between the fingers can be an obscene gesture, so only the tip should be visible. In terms of pointing, most Germans use their index finger to point, but some may use their little pinky finger. Some Germans may have a quite serious exterior upon first meeting people, reserving smiles for friends. Once they are familiar with someone, they generally become very animated. So here are the gender roles and relations among the German people. For many Germans, the family home provides a place where an individual's eccentricity can be fully revealed. So parents and relatives are expected to help foster a person's aspirations to help them reach their full potential. Also, Germans are also generally encouraged to be self-reliant throughout childhood so that they are prepared to be independent as adults. Most children move out of their parents' home when they go to university or as soon as they are in a financial position to do so. Furthermore, most German households are quite small, consisting of the nuclear family alone, so mother, father, and their children. So the extended family generally lives separately. This form continues to be the most common family structure among the Germans. Also, one of the roles of the man or the husband is he is the head of the family. So the man is the traditional head of the family. However, this hierarchy has evolved. Gender does not dictate a person's role or duty to the family as it is used to. Women enjoy equal rights and the opportunity to choose their form of contribution to the household dynamic. Another one is families in East Germany tend to use childcare facilities much more than those in the West. This practice began during the communist era. When women were required to be employed full-time, this preference has prevailed, with more women in the West choosing to be stay-at-home mothers than those in the East. Another There is growing acceptance for families incorporating LGBTQI+ relationships. Many people are also choosing to live alone, particularly in Berlin, Hamburg, Bremen, and Saxony. So there ends my presentation about the German culture. So as we conclude our journey through German culture, let us carry with us not just the facts and figures, but the essence of this remarkable land. Let us remember the clinking of porcelain against wooden tables, the vibrant use of Oktoberfest costumes, and the quiet contemplation in a sand-dappled forest as presented a while ago. Let us also remember the warmth of shared laughter of Germans, as shown in the screen, and the unwavering pursuit of excellence, as evident to the um, inventions and the works of German people. So may our understanding of German culture be not just an intellectual exercise, but a bridge to connection, to appreciate the beauty and dynamism of a nation that continues to surprise and inspire. Again, this is Siti Ainati Pandapatan presenting the German culture from Europe's continent.